Okay, I want to help you out a little bit with the activity or exercise I want you to go through with doing self assessment. And I tried a little bit with the table of observations, and it typically is not something that students like to do, so I want to help you a little bit more. I also want to let you know that I will be starting to give you a communication mark on putting some effort into this. So I am not marking you on uh, how well you mark yourself. That's not what this is about. This is like going for your driver's license. And some of you out there already have your driver's license. But when you go for your driver's license, you know the criteria, you're motivated, and you go out and you study the test. You look at, okay, do I know how to, stop at a red light? Do I know how to go through an intersection when the light turns yellow? Do I know how the distance I'm supposed to be away from when I'm stopping the vehicle in front of me? So all these criteria and what all the signs mean and et cetera, are required for you to know to be successful in your getting your driver's license. So this is kind of the same idea. I give you rubrics, I give you criteria on how you're going to be assessed, and I want you to do really, really well on these assignments. They are a very, very important part of the e-learning course, and we're kind of you're been into the course, you get an idea how the e-learning works, you're getting an idea of what my assignments are like, and you're kind of getting some rhythm, I want to say. So we're going to now add in doing self-assessment. So like I said, we tried it with the table of observations, and now I want to see more of the self-assessment. So I'm just going to click through here. Just give me a minute. So we're going into, this is teacher mode, so ignore it, but I'm going to go to reactions of acids, but I'm just going to, just give me a minute here. I'm going to just turn that screen off for a minute because I'm going to enter into the reaction of the acids. And I actually made this mock assignment. Um, so this doesn't matter that I called it mock. I am not able to input the assignment like you can, but this would be the screen, the Dropbox. This would be the Dropbox where you've submitted your reactions of the metals with the acid. And so your answers would be all here, but I don't have them. So what I'm showing you is I just did something a little bit different. So you know though when you go into your Dropbox that you see that there's a rubric, and I really want you to work on looking at what a level 4 criteria is. And I want you to, in this case, there's only two categories I'm marking, and we're looking at an application. Um, so we're looking at all equations that are included. I always want to go to a level 3, correct symbols, reactants, products, and states, most balanced. And then I always like to look at a level 4 that I could add one additional metal to the reaction of the acid. So I want to always check the rubric because that gives you some criteria on how you're going to be evaluated. So now let's go into my mock lab I did. And so yeah, this is not for you to copy, but it's to give you a really good guide. Okay, I'm assessing it. I write the questions and the instructions out with as much detail as possible. And here's what you would do with that information. And again, this is, you've already submitted this, you've already done it. You may look at some things, you go, oh my goodness, I forgot that. Well, this is the beautiful thing about what I'm doing is that you can now go and correct it before you do your final submission. Okay, so question one was about hypothesizing. Had you do a little activity on that in the discussion to get you kind of in looking at hypothesis and inference. And then for this experiment, I give you the metals that I want you to test. You've already observed them at this point, hydrochloric, and you're reacting them with hydrochloric acid. Well, someone else is. If you're in a lab, I would have my students do this. Not all teachers would do that, but I love doing labs. So you have to first hypothesize. So again, this is not for you to copy this because I've actually made some mistakes and because that's not what is important. What's important is you kind of look at um, the template of it. So I hypothesize that calcium will be most vigorous as it's found highest on the metal activity series because I talk about that you really need to use your activity series and recall that this was the one that was you printed off earlier. So if you don't have this, this will be difficult. If you haven't kept up with the content part, this will be difficult. So you need to go back to those lessons and get more comfortable with them before you can move on. So I'm really looking at metals that are in here. I actually start to see some of the metals. There's a calcium. I know that magnesium was used in there, and I think zinc was, and iron was. And the big thing is hydrogen's in there too. That's part of the hydrochloric acid. And then I know that copper's in there. So we're really looking at um, anything above the hydrogen is going to react with the metal, and anything below the hydrogen is not. And that's about those battle of the electrons that's happening. So you've got to be thinking, have that close by when you're doing um, your prediction, sorry, your hypothesis. When you're doing your observations, you need to have the signs close by. And I'm not seeing these enough in the labs you've done so far. So the expectation is going to be higher now that you're using these signs. So you need to use this language. So did a new color appear? Well, maybe the solution became cloudy. Well, is that a precipitate that's forming? And remember, what's great about with the e-learning, you can go and research this. If you're like, okay, well, I don't know, like I'm seeing some bubbles, but I'm not really 100% sure what's going on, go onto Google and say reaction of zinc with hydrochloric acid. You'll find a ton of things. We're not saying you can't research because you're looking at the lab, you're just getting support. Don't copy what's being written, but you're getting support to better learn and understand what's going on. Most of them are going to have bubbles of gas appearing. And that's when gas is produced in a liquid. That's when you can say this number three, bubbles of gas appear. Bubbly, bubbly, bubbly. You'll see it bubbling. Okay. Did a new odor appear? Well, they didn't say anything in there. So I'll tell you that there was no odor that was um, appearing. Was heat and or light produced? Well, you're not 100% sure about that. Some of them will be getting warm, but they don't really show that very much in the demonstration. So you might have to research that. Is there some heat that's produced? Starting material is used up. Some of them do have the starting material that used up because you can no longer see it. Okay. So you want to be looking for these signs and using this language. Okay. So now you've got your signs, you've got your activity series, you've got your experiment. The template. I just copied this from the assignment folder. And so then I've done my prediction, my hypothesis. And now number two, asked you to do the observation. Always create a table. I like to put a number in there, table 1.0. I like to have a good title, reactions of 6 different metals when placed in hydrochloric acid. Remember for a level 4, in one of those criteria, that you need to go then and research another metal that reacts. So that could be any of these metals up here, whoops, that is not one that you did. There's a good hint for you. Um, so you can see that I did calcium. Calcium actually is a pretty good reaction, truthfully. Bubbles of gas appear, starting materials used up, material with new properties form. So I'm actually really getting into a lot of detail of the observations that I'm requesting. If you get stuck for a fourth one, sometimes there isn't a fourth. For calcium, there will be a fourth. For some of the other ones, there may not be. So, and I know what the fourth one is, and I'm not going to put it down there. So I don't really get bogged down on finding, a fourth one because sometimes there isn't one. So, but I'm telling you that there is one for sure that does have a fourth sign, and I'll be watching for that if you want the level four. So then number three says write out all equations. So all equations are both word and balanced. And so I just thought I'd set it up as a table because I like working with tables. That helps me stay organized. You don't have to use a table, but you do have to be clear in writing out your word equation. Make sure it's complete. Some are doing parts of the word and not the whole word. And then also you're writing out a balanced chemical equation with the states. Okay. So because the hydrochloric acid like is in a liquid, when you drop the metal in, that's called aqueous. And what's left in after the reaction happens is in this case, is calcium chloride, which is also aqueous. And the gas that's released is hydrogen, blah, 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 that's bubbling out. So that I write that as a gas. So I'm really helping you here with this. I also actually am helping you here quite a bit with iron. So I'm going to mark more of the ones that are, oh, that's not going to work. The zinc, tin, copper, etc. So again, if you like the idea of using a table, go ahead. Um, it just helps you keep me keep organized. And the last one was to summarize by placing the metals in order. Always start with the sentence. The order from least reactive to most is, and then I just made up some. They're not right, by the way. And I had to clearly say which way I was going. Most people like to go from most reactive to least. That's your choice. Just make sure you're clear in doing that. So then I'm going to go, and I don't think I'm not going to be able to do this because I set this up as a PDF so that you could see it. So then I would write on this sheet because you're going to take the file you put in the Dropbox and you're going to open that up again and you're going to tweak it and you're going to edit it. And then I want you to mark it. So in the bottom here, I really wish I could write in here. This area right here, you can see my cursor. I've got two marks that I'm doing. The two marks that I'm doing are I'm doing a thinking and I'm doing an application. Okay, and again, you're going to see it differently. This is the way I mark it. So I would then go back to my mock and I'd say T equals 3, 4, 2. Don't be like, just read the rubric and say, okay, have I done this? Check, check. It's like a checklist. And if I haven't done it, then maybe I'm an R. And I'm like, okay. I hope not. I hope that you can see that you can, you get another chance at this and you can use the rubric and get a higher mark for yourself. And then I'm also going to have I'm going to say, thinking equals and then application equals, whatever that mark is that when I look at application. Are all my equations there? Are my word chemical? Are they all balanced? Are the symbols correct? Have I included the states? Okay. And then the application in the fourth criteria, level 4, was where you went and you then added another metal that you would research. Okay. So hope that helps you out. And for this assignment, I'll have it in announcements on what the criteria is and don't hesitate to ask um, any if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Okay, that's it. Bye now.